Hello everyone, welcome to Postcard Buddhism, the best channel for sharing knowledge about Buddhism. Today we will talk about the topic, true suchness as conditioned arising. This profound concept, present in many Mahayana schools, explores the ultimate reality and how all phenomena arise and exist within it. Join us as we delve into the essence of true suchness and its significance in understanding the nature of existence and our place in the universe. True suchness as conditioned arising. Sketching true suchness as conditioned arising. True suchness as conditioned arising is a doctrine present in most Mahayana sects, such as the Middle Way, Madhyamaka, Consciousness Only, Yogacara, Flower Ornament, Huayan, Tiantai, Vajrayana, and others. We use the term doctrine here akin to a philosophical theory because when studied from the standpoint of thought and concepts, which is what we are currently doing, it is a doctrine, relative truth, conventional truth. However, when one truly experiences true suchness, it is no longer a doctrine, a finger pointing at the moon, but it is the absolute truth, the ultimate truth, the moon itself. What is true suchness to thoughter? Generally defined, true suchness is the reality that is neither arising nor ceasing, neither pure nor impure, neither increasing nor decreasing. It is the primordial and ultimate reality from which all phenomena arise. Using terms from the awakening of faith in the Mahayana, true suchness is the mind of true suchness as opposed to the mind of arising and ceasing, the nature of true suchness, the Tathagatagarbha, the one mind, the great essence of the one Dharma realm, emptiness, the Dharma body, original enlightenment, ultimate enlightenment, the mirror-like space, the nature of awareness, the mind, the nature of the Dharma realm, the Buddha nature, etc. We can broadly define true suchness as conditioned arising as follows. Everything we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and think, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, Dharma, arises from true suchness, exists within true suchness, and ceases within true suchness. In other words, all phenomena we experience are true suchness. True suchness as conditioned arising is extensively discussed in the Avatamsaka Sutra, Flower Ornament Sutra, and the Lotus Sutra. The Avatamsaka Sutra states, "The three realms are but one mind," chapter on the 10 grounds. The Lotus Sutra, particularly in the chapters on the divine powers of the Tathagata and the lifespan of the Tathagata, part of the original gate according to Master Ji's analysis, directly and profoundly discusses true suchness as conditioned arising. The Lankavatara Sutra states, "The Tathagatagarbha is the cause of both good and evil, from which all forms of life arise. Like an actor taking on various forms, there is no self and no possession. Not knowing this, the three conditions come together as a means of arising. Non-Buddhists, not knowing this, believe in a creator and a cause. Due to evil habits and false notions accumulated from time immemorial, it is called the storehouse consciousness, alaya vijnana, which changes along with the 7 consciousnesses and is perfumed by fundamental ignorance, like an ocean with waves continually arising. If one is free from the faults of not seeing impermanence and free from attachment to self, then the Tathagatagarbha is free from defilement and ultimately pure in its nature. Great bodhisattvas who want to progress to the ultimate must purify the Tathagatagarbha, which is still the alaya consciousness. Without this storehouse consciousness, there would be no arising and ceasing. O Mahamati, the realm of the Tathagatagarbha is inherently pure, but those who are not enlightened are defiled by external dust, so they still see it as impure." Scroll 8. The Srimala Devi Sutra states, "Birth and death rely on the Tathagatagarbha. Because of the Tathagatagarbha, there is birth and death. This is what the wise say. Birth and death, these two dharmas, are the Tathagatagarbha. According to worldly terms, it is said there is birth and death, but it is not that the Tathagatagarbha has birth and death. The Tathagatagarbha is inherently free from conditioned marks. The Tathagatagarbha is eternally abiding, unchanging, thus it is the foundation, the sustainer, the establisher. All forms are nature, all waves are the unmoving pure ocean, all existence is the Tathagatagarbha." The Great Prajna Sutra, chapter on equal learning states, "All dharmas are inherently pure. In these dharmas, if the bodhisattva's mind comprehends without delusion, that is the perfection of wisdom." The Sarangama Sutra, scroll 4 states, "The Tathagatagarbha is not mind, not earth, water, fire, or wind, not the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind, not form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharmas, not the eye consciousness up to the mind consciousness, not ignorance or the end of ignorance. Thus, it is not old age and death, nor the end of old age and death, not suffering, origination, cessation, path, not wisdom, not attainment, not giving, precepts, patience, diligence, meditation, wisdom, not the perfections. Thus up to, not the Tathagata, worthy one, perfectly enlightened one, not great nirvana, not permanence, bliss, self, or purity. All are not worldly or transcendental dharmas. The Tathagata Garbha is the mind, is emptiness, is earth, water, fire, wind, is the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, is form, sound, smell, taste, touch. Dharmas is the eye realm up to the mind realm, is ignorance, is the end of ignorance. Thus it is old age and death, the end of old age and death, suffering, origination, cessation, path, wisdom, attainment, giving, precepts, patience, diligence, meditation, wisdom, the perfections. Thus up to the Tathagata, worthy one, perfectly enlightened one, is great nirvana, is permanence, bliss, self, purity. All are worldly and transcendental dharmas. The Tathagata Garbha is beyond is and is not, both is and is not. In summary, true suchness as conditioned arising, or Tathagata Garbha as conditioned arising, or Dharma realm as conditioned arising, is the true emptiness and wonderful existence. According to the terminology of the awakening of faith in the Mahayana, true suchness as conditioned arising is the empty Tathagata Garbha, true emptiness, and the non-empty Tathagata Garbha, wonderful existence. In ordinary language, true suchness is what encompasses all contradictions and opposites, being and non-being, movement and stillness, one and many, real and illusory, form and formlessness, while remaining pure, not defiled by them. True suchness as conditioned arising, or true emptiness and wonderful existence, must be practiced to be experienced. Otherwise it remains a speculative philosophy, a finger pointing at the moon, a signpost to the ultimate reality. If it is merely a kind of philosophy based on and working with concepts, then in Buddhism it inevitably falls into argumentation and the cycle of limited, arising and ceasing consciousness. The Lankavatara Sutra says, arising and ceasing is consciousness, non-arising is wisdom. The one bound by forms is consciousness. The one not bound is wisdom, Mahamati. I say that the cessation of false consciousness is called nirvana. Nirvana is another name for true suchness. Applying it to real life, true suchness is all of life, so the application of true suchness as conditioned arising is present in all areas of life. Here we will briefly look at a few areas. Although the path of human beings is to reach the absolute truth, to attain the non-arising and non-ceasing wisdom, at the beginning and along the way, we still need to use arising and ceasing consciousness, that is, relative truth. In other words, we have not yet realized true suchness as conditioned arising, so we live with it on the level of consciousness, thought, and the path we are on, but in the right direction. The cause is a relative consciousness, but if practiced correctly, the result will be the non-arising and non-ceasing wisdom that penetrates true suchness. Let us consider true suchness as conditioned arising in comparison with some other philosophies to see its practical benefits in life. Practical here is understood in the high and beautiful sense of the word. Pragmatic philosophy or practical philosophy, advocated and developed by Charles S. Peirce, 1839 to 1914, William James, 1840 to 1910, and John Dewey, 1850 to 1954, all Americans. Pragmatic philosophy, when evaluating the value of a philosophy, bases it on its practical results impacting life. For example, James' essay Philosophical Conceptions and Practical Results, 1898, is an example. Here, we will examine the effects of the doctrine of true suchness as conditioned arising in three themes: time and history, things, nature and humans, and academic studies. Time and history, with true suchness as conditioned arising, this universe arises from true suchness according to the karma of all sentient beings, arises from true suchness, exists and is established in by true suchness, and ceases in true suchness. The universe is the transformation of true suchness according to the karma of each species. The universe of humans is true suchness manifested through the body, speech, and mind karma of humans. True suchness, as the primordial and ultimate reality, both transcends the universe and is immanent within the universe. In the non-dual logic of Mahayana, The transcendence of true suchness is its immanence. Thus, the universe in this world, though perceived in any way, still contain the true face of humans, still the true home of humans. It is in the manifestation of the universe's form that humans, in their development and evolution, can recognize true suchness at any time and place. It is in this diverse world that humans will see the true face of everything as true suchness. Humans are not lost in an unconscious, alien universe with no sacredness. On the contrary, they feel lost because they do not recognize their true and sacred, transcendent face and that of the world. They have never left their true, pure homeland. Salvation, liberation is always within their reach, or more precisely, within themselves, when they purify their vision, when they transform consciousness into wisdom, when they see birth and death as the non-birth and non-death of nirvana, of true suchness. Therefore, for Buddhism, the ultimate reality is present here and now. All paths, all methods of Buddhism, however different they may appear on the surface, lead to this here and now. In contrast, Western theology conceives the ultimate reality as a personal God who created the universe from nothing, ex nihilo. God is the first cause, the first mover who created the universe. But God is outside the universe, not within it. For humans too, God created them, even in His image, but outside of them. The universe and humans are outside God, so to reach the ultimate reality which is God, humans have to pass through an unconscious, alien universe and through their own equally alien fate. Humans cannot meet the ultimate reality through their own efforts. Everything depends on God's will. The questions continue to perplex theologians. If God is good and created the universe, why is there evil in the universe? History, according to Western thought, is linear, and only at the end of human history does it meet God again in the final judgment, which is also the end of the world. Thus, history is just a wait for its end to be re-established in a new heaven and new earth, with the remaining humans because they were chosen. History is the history of the absence of the ultimate reality, because the ultimate reality is outside history, outside human fate. The linear view of history influenced great philosophers like Hegel, 1770 to 1831. For Hegel, although the world spirit is immanent in the world, humans cannot directly reach the world spirit, the absolute. They must wait for the world spirit to complete its dialectical process through the universe to its final perfection. Only then will humans be perfected. The separation of the world, history, and humans from the ultimate reality creates Western tragedy. In the 19th century, Nietzsche said, "God is dead. If God is outside humans in the universe, then God can indeed die. But if God is within humans, all sentient beings have Buddha nature, and within the universe, then how can God die as long as there are humans?" Works in the 20th century, whose titles reveal the severed tragedy between God and humans in the universe. In Search of Lost Time, Marcel Proust, Exile and Kingdom, The Rebel, The Stranger, The Myth of Sisyphus, Albert Camus, Waiting for Godot, Samuel Beckett, The Age of Suspicion, Nathalie Sarraute. Western history is linear, apocalyptic, and lacks the ultimate reality within it. It only meets the ultimate reality at the end, meaning when history has ended. It is a history seeking the ultimate reality at the end, but itself lacks the ultimate reality. History is meaningless. Jean-Paul Sartre's observation highlights this situation clearly. Most great modern writers, Proust, Joyce, Dos Passos, Faulkner, each in their own way, try to destroy time. Some remove past and future, reducing time to the pure consciousness of the present moment. Never before in the 20th century have the rapid mutations and collapses of historical processes made people realize the absurdity of time, the absence of the future. Thus, when a memory only freezes the contingencies and eternal returns of a life in a single moment, it is not surprising because the moment is the mutual encompassing and opposition of the before by the after. Sartre, Saint-Genet, Comedian et Martyr, 1952, quoted from 20th century French literature history, Deng Dihan editor, National University Publishing House, Hanoi, 2005. Western history is the history of humanity expelled from the Garden of Eden, a banishment into the world with no chance of self-restoration. It is the history of losing the ultimate reality that only the death of history itself can redeem. The parable of the prodigal son in the Bible, and the parable of the poor son returns in the Lotus Sutra are similar in speaking about the human condition, but they are very different in their resolutions, looking at the overall picture of the two cultures. History, according to the East, especially Buddhism, is always an opportunity for humans. It is salvation for humans because history is the development of true suchness according to human karma. History is not hiding or veiling. When asked what the ultimate reality is, Zen master Wu Yantong, the first patriarch of a Zen lineage in Vietnam, replied, "Never hidden and everywhere." Humans always have the opportunity to encounter and find the ultimate reality at any moment in time and space, meaning at any point in history. All Buddhist sects agree that humans can encounter, understand, realize, and integrate the ultimate reality here and now. For Buddhism, time and space are not only relative but even unreal, hence liberation is possible. The focal point, the ultimate goal of Western history is in the future, at the end, teleology. The focal point, the ultimate goal of Eastern history is here and now. It only requires human minds to be clear and pure enough to see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and think. Things, nature, and humans. The afflictions or errors of humans lie in the discrimination and separation between subject and object, including the transcendent object of the ultimate reality. One of the issues addressed by the Surangama Sutra is why there is this body and mind and the external world, and how to bridge the gap. This is perhaps the first and fundamental suffering of all human suffering. Western culture originates from Greece in the Old Testament. The book of Genesis states, "God blessed them and said to them, 'Be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground.'" Genesis 1, verse 28. When Adam and Eve sinned by eating the forbidden fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, God said to the woman, "I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." Genesis 3:16. And to Adam, "The ground will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you are taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return." Genesis 3:18-19. In the Old Testament, nature always brings suffering to humans. Resisting and conquering nature must also mean resisting and conquering suffering. The relationship between humans and nature is one of violence, hostility, and struggle. Nature is a curse on human fate. Today, with science and technology, humans have solved that curse. But along with this, nature is dying, the earth is dying. We are losing a companion, even an elder brother, because nature preceded us, and the death of the earth is also our death. From the Greek and Old Testament sources to Descartes and modern philosophers, the separation between subject and object remains unresolved. Science and technology deepen this separation by making humans exploit and conquer nature to satisfy endless ambitions. Pushing the life of nature into the realm of inanimate matter, being aggressive towards nature, thus being aggressive towards humans, is a short step. This is the characteristic of Western culture. The East, on the other hand, always seeks harmony with nature. Only in recent decades, faced with the imminent depletion and destruction of the earth, bringing humanity's impending death, has the West started talking about the environment, nature, and living in harmony with nature. Human history, according to the West, is the history of humanity expelled from Eden, seeking the lost paradise by building a new material paradise with the resources of this earth. Meanwhile, Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you." The greatest illusion of Western civilization is thinking that humans will be happy, peaceful, and build a happy and peaceful future by disregarding nature, disregarding other humans, exploitation and war, colonialism, and most importantly, disregarding their true inner self. The illusion that one can find a paradise outside oneself, a paradise built by conquering nature, conquering others, and concealing one's deep inner self increasingly shows its immediate consequences. It must be emphasized that we say one should not progress through illusions, through setting false premises, rather than saying one should not progress materially. Meanwhile, the East says, if the mind is peaceful, the world is peaceful. The mind leads all dharmas. Interpreted in our ordinary way, if the mind is correct, good and beautiful, everything, the natural world and the world we create will be correct, good and beautiful. Naturally, the result is no suffering. No one creates original sin for us like Adam and Eve. We must take responsibility for our ongoing errors. This is our current wrong view and actions regarding nature, humans, and the ultimate reality. For the East, the core philosophy of which is true suchness as conditioned arising, nature and others are not objects or adversaries to conquer, wage war against, and dominate on our path of evolution. Each thing in nature is a true suchness as conditioned arising. Each human is a true suchness as conditioned arising. We, nature and others share the same emptiness, the same true suchness. If there's a difference in levels, it is a difference due to the degree of awareness, more or less, of this fundamental unity, consciously or instinctively. This is the knowledge that brings peace and happiness to all beings. If we can experience this inherent equality, nature wisdom, that is happiness, ultimate happiness, because it ends all conflict, greed and hatred, war. Buddhism includes many paths, many ways to end ignorance, the view that separates and cuts off the subject and object, which leads to the modern disease of loneliness. When ignorance dissolves to any extent, true suchness reveals itself to that extent. Ignorance is the deep-rooted illusion that there are chasms separating us from nature, from others, and from the ultimate reality. Separation from nature, from others, and from the ultimate reality is also separation from ourselves. Our alienation continues, our suffering continues. The two fundamental harmful attitudes to ourselves are greed and hatred. Not getting what we want leads to hatred, both arising from this separation. These chasms causing suffering are not addressed. All science, technology, philosophy, literature, politics, economics, and social organization are powerless to fill them, if not exacerbate them when there is no right view. That is why, despite all developments in every field, Buddhism remains as a cure for all ailments. In Buddhist literature, the Buddha is still called the great physician king for this reason. Through true suchness as conditioned arising, we restore the sacredness, true suchness, the transcendence, the ineffable quality to the world, nature, and humans, including ourselves. Seeing everything as sacred within true suchness means we have sanctified our lives, returning ourselves to our true, sacred, and transcendent self. The allegory of the philosopher's stone in the West and the staff in the East, turning the entire universe into pure gold, has this meaning. To conclude this section, we quote two lines of verse by Zen master Tian Lao, 11th century, in response to King Li Tai Tong. Green bamboo and yellow flowers are not outside the mind. The clear moon and white clouds reveal the whole truth. This is the view of those who truly see and know, right view. As Zen master Mazu said, if one establishes the Dharma realm, then all are the Dharma realm. If one establishes true suchness, then all are true suchness. Or as Zen master Huangbo said, nature and form are not different. Mind and environment are one. Seeing thus, how could there be a destroyed earth, ruined by greed? How could there be objects dying faster due to consumerism? Human studies. When we say true suchness is the true nature and true form of all phenomena, we immediately see that true suchness is the goal of all subjects, all research fields, because all fields aim to understand the essence, form, and function of an object of study. In Buddhism, all academic studies and research fall under the realm of relative truth because they rely on the finite rationality of humans. For example, according to Kant, reason cannot comprehend or grasp the thing in itself, the ultimate reality, reality as it is. Reason only understands the world of phenomena, phenomenon, but cannot reach the essence, noumenon. Later, for Sartre, the being in itself, the being for itself, is also the greatest impotence of human consciousness, the being for itself. Philosophers of science like Wittgenstein, Thomas Kuhn, Karl Popper have shown us the limits of science, which is the limit of reason. Practically, the inability to unify the theory of relativity and quantum physics, even theoretically, over nearly a century has demonstrated this. Only at a level beyond reason, at what we call the spiritual or wisdom level, can consciousness begin to experience absolute truth, true nature, and true form. Beyond reason, we call it spiritual because it cannot be quantified or qualified by science or logic. Only the spiritual or wisdom level can recognize and understand spirituality or wisdom. Hence, those who practice spirituality and have spiritual results in Western culture are still called mystics. For example, the power of precepts and what we call precept essence and meditation, insight, bodhicitta, dedication, cannot be measured by any machine or observation. Even depth psychology, psychoanalysis, cannot fathom what a mind free of afflictions is like, because psychoanalysis only examines the mind, and that is the coarse mind. So how can it know what a mind without thoughts, no mind, is? With a mind free of afflictions, a mind without thoughts, no mind, psychoanalysis has lost its object of study, rendering it ineffective. The ideal of Buddhism, as well as the East and the West, is that relative truth, conventional truth, can approach and reflect part of the absolute ultimate truth. The connection of relative and absolute truth, the connection of life and the way, is the goal of Mahayana Buddhism. And generally that is the path of liberation and enlightenment for the entire Buddhism. Currently, the ideal of each subject is to manifest and reflect a small part of the whole hologram. Hologram, a photograph taken with laser interference, each small part of which, when illuminated, shows the entire image of the whole photograph, of the entire universe. The great physicist Einstein once dreamed of such a relationship between science and Buddhism. The religion of the future must be a cosmic religion. It must transcend a personal God and avoid dogma and theology. Covering both the natural and the spiritual, it should be based on a religious sense arising from the experience of all things as a meaningful unity. Buddhism answers this description. If there is any religion that would cope with modern scientific needs, it would be Buddhism. The ideal relationship of sciences with each other and with this cosmic religion is that each part, each subject, is non-obstructive, mutually interpenetrating with each other, and non-obstructive, mutually interpenetrating with the cosmic religion. The view of non-obstruction of all parts with each other, while non-obstructive with the whole, is the view, standpoint, and the ultimate point of the Avatamsaka Sutra. In East Asia, academic studies are almost always connected and reference to the ultimate reality according to their view. For example, most disciplines have the word Tao, the way. Medical Tao, martial Tao, art Tao, human Tao, heavenly Tao, earth Tao, and reference to the supreme ultimate or the Tao. Chinese philosophers of the 11th and 12th centuries also debated the principle Tao in things in life. Unfortunately, they engaged in much speculation, but lacked scientific advances in a comprehensive wisdom like Buddhism. Recently, following that direction, theoretical physicist Fritjof Capra wrote the book The Tao of Physics, 1974, about the parallels between modern physics and Eastern Taoism. In the West, most subjects are attached with the suffix logi, ontology, phenomenology, sociology, psychology. This suffix logi originates from the Greek word logos, meaning the universal principle. In East Asia it is called the Tao, and elevated further it is true suchness. Thus, sociology can be translated as the Tao of society, psychology as the Tao of psychology. Both Eastern and Western studies aim to reach the ultimate reality, the Tao or logos. The convergence to true suchness as the ultimate reality is the common goal of both Eastern and Western civilizations. For example, Buddhist art seeks to express true suchness in form. The art of both East and West also seeks to express the ultimate reality according to the style of each civilization, each people. Conclusion. In such a perspective, the sciences, relative truth, conventional truth, and true suchness as conditioned arising, absolute truth, ultimate truth, do not obstruct each other but complement and illuminate each other. For example, in modern physics, no fundamental particle or system is independent or exists separately. They interact with each other, co-arise with each other, even non-obstructive, mutually interpenetrating with each other. Thus, Buddhism does not oppose science, does not obstruct science as the study and research of human reason. On the contrary, it is evident that as sciences develop deeply and broadly with reason and goodwill, the truths of Buddhism become clearer. And perhaps, as Einstein hoped, the absolute truths of Buddhism will illuminate the paths of relative truths, the paradigms, a term of Thomas Kuhn, 1962, of science. Until relative truths reflect the absolute truth, are one with the absolute truth. Form is emptiness. Humans always seek happiness, The more enduring, the better. But they still encounter suffering because they do not know how to establish the causes of happiness, but instead constantly sow the seeds of suffering. The sufferings, disasters from individuals to societies worldwide, prove how wrong our thoughts and actions are. The eternal dream of humanity is to connect their lives with the ultimate reality, with the absolute, to connect their careers, meaning their creative thinking and actions, with the ultimate reality. How to connect life with the way, that is the issue, even the only issue. Here, briefly, through some points above, we see true suchness as conditioned arising achieves that wish. The way comes to life. Life connects with the way through humans. Humans can understand, learn, and imitate. The term fa of Laozi in the saying, humans imitate earth, earth imitates heaven, heaven imitates the Tao imitates nature. True suchness through its manifestations, in all human activities, science, politics, economics, society, etc. Because with a pure mind, humans can see the reflection of true suchness in the phenomenal world until they directly see it. As the Heart Sutra says, seeing form, phenomena, is seeing emptiness, essence. This is what is called learning, lifelong learning in the East. By learning true suchness in both form and essence, in both phenomena and essence, humans will understand, correspond to, and integrate true suchness. This is the sacred mission of humans, the sacred destiny of humans, connecting life with the way, the phenomenal world with the formless essence, connecting birth and death with nirvana, connecting the branch with the root, connecting departure with return, connecting time with the timeless, the finite with the infinite. Through some points above, we see the establishment of a Buddhist civilization is possible.